Part 2 will be the live recording, but Part 1 will be the opening theory to this bullet game. Magnus Carlsen takes on top US Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky in a bullet game. They have 1 minute each on the clock. How does Carlsen beat the King's Indian defense? Well, we're going to find out in this game. I will be making suggestions so then you can apply them in your own games to improve your chess. Timestamps are below for you to skip to a section. If you are new here, hello, my name is William. Let's begin. Part 1 is the opening theory. Carlsen has white, Daniel Naroditsky has black. d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, we have the King's Indian defense. e4, white gets the center. Black plays d6, controlling c5, e5, he plans to strike in the center later. Bishop e2, castle, bishop e3, a very flexible setup for white. You get your center, then you put a couple of bishops in the middle, just waiting to see what black will play. Knight c6, challenging the center, then going e5 soon. d5, attacking the knight, knight in the middle. Now Magnus plays a simple move. He doesn't play f4, which looks like you're going to get a lot of space, but this is the kind of position a King's Indian player would want. You're going to go knight c5, you're going to go e6, rook e8, trying to break up the center. You're giving your opponent chances. That's why if you get this position, no need to play f4 to make things very complicated. Just go knight f3, offering a trade. Play simple, good chess. Knight f3, bishop takes f3. Let's consider this position. White has more space in the center. Pawns on c4, d5, e4, controlling lots of light squares. And you've got a couple of bishops in the middle. And you're ready to castle. All good so far. e6, black chips away at the center. Castle, knight d7. Rerouting this knight, the options. The knight can go to c5 to attack e4. The other option, you can go to e5 to attack c4. And when you retreat this knight, this bishop is now active on this diagonal. Bishop d4. Carlsen knows black's bishop is very strong, so he offers a trade. Now, another option is just to play a very good move, rook c1. You defend the knight, and if knight e5, bishop e2. This is what I suggest you play. I think it's better than what actually happened in the game. White still has a lot of space. You've got your three central pawns, bishops back in the middle, and you've got your rook in the middle. Options to continue for white. If you get this position, try this in your own games. Now you might want to go f4 to kick the knight away. To get even more space, you might want to go b4. You can go a3 to defend the pawn, or you go a4 as well. You have a pawn here, so to get even more space, 1, 2. b4, then c5. You have a bishop has support. This queen can come up as well, queen d2. Queen is well placed when the queen and the bishop line up. In the future, you might want to offer a trade with bishop h6. Bishop d4 played, a5 played by black. One option was black could have closed it up with e5, bishop e3, and then f5. But after bishop d4, a5 played, take, bishop e2, and now black locks it up with e5. You've got a few options. If we look at the pawns, they are controlling lots of dark squares. a5 controls this square, c5 controls this, and that controls d4. The knight can actually sit very well on c5, and then black can keep going. So if you get this kind of position, make sure your pawns are on dark squares. You can sit your knight very well on c5 and time it. You can get f5 in, which is the typical way to break open the position for black. Queen d2. Part 1 is now over. Now for part 2, the bullet game. d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3. We have the King's Indian, bishop e2, bishop e3, knight c6, d5, knight f3. Maybe knights come off, e6, castle. Knight d7, rook c1. Okay, take. This is a good version of the King's Indian, right? But then we get this, knight d1, knight e3, typical Petrosian style blockade. We put your knight on e3, and this structure is so fixed, it's not in black's favor. Queen d2 played, f5, black strikes in the center, and after take, black should actually take with the rook. Now, taking with the pawn looks very good because look at all this control, but this is really how Carlsen is able to beat the King's Indian, because he sets up a very good strategy. He plays f4. This is a great move. When you play f4, you actually stop black playing f4 himself. So if you played a normal move like rook e1, f4, you You got this really good pawn chain working in black's favour. This tends to be the case. If you want to stop your opponent playing a move, you play the move yourself. f4, e4. This is a protected passed pawn, but this pawn is going nowhere. Knight d1. This is the reason I wanted to go through this game, this maneuver. When you retreat the knight to d1, you can now come to e3. Queen f6 played, and knight can sit well on e3, but if you just want to be a bit more accurate, I thought knight e3 is just a good move. You park your knight on e3, and on this spot you are attacking f5. You can go g4 to chip away at the black structure, but you want to get your rook in the game. So if you get this position in your own games before you put the knight on e3, maybe you get the chance to put your rook on c1 first. 1, 2. Getting the rook over to the king side first. Rook c3. Maybe you throw in a check and knight e3, and if rook g8, let's say black wants to trade, you just say no. Rook h3. The rook is perfectly safe on this square. There's no chance for this bishop to attack the rook. We put your knight on e3, and this structure is so fixed, it's not in black's favour. Rook b2, king f2. This can be timed later. b4, rook b1, knight a4 coming in here, right? The king comes into the middle. Now we get this endgame. 44 seconds each. h3, g4. Like I said before. Now we got your pawn break. c5 is there. Now he takes. He takes. I don't like that at all now. g4, b5, c takes b5. When I saw this move live, I didn't really like this move. It's giving black a chance to come in. Another option, you can go c5. And after take, b4, it looks like this is why Carlsen didn't go for it. Maybe c6. Maybe white is the one who is the first. c6 attacks the bishop. You've got a lot of tension here. 1, 2. You've also got maybe g5 and h4 just to get space on that side of the board, the king side. So after b5, Carlsen played take. Knight takes f5. So this pawn is now unguarded, but after bishop takes e2, this rook is now useful. Gonna take the pawn. Rook takes b4. This pawn could be weak. I do not like that move because after take, knight d3, but this happens. Okay. Counterplay for black. As expected in the King's Indian. Rook c7 is their mate coming up. Take. Is that mate? g5 is mate. So h6 might be needed to stop it. Right. Knight h4. What a cool move. Now where's the mate? Now knight back. Maybe take and then check and maybe h5. You want to be fancy. You want to be fancy? Is that too much? Because g5 doesn't work, so... Knight b6, rook c6. Now we got this. We're collecting 20 seconds against 16. Knight a4, take, discover, check. Wow. Now knight h4. Really clever move because if it is white's move now, g5 is actually mate. So let's play a nothing move. That is mate all of a sudden. All squares covered on the back. After knight h4, that's why h6, so knight back to f5. Now this pawn is a target, Carlsen goes for it. Rook b2 check, king d1, knight b6, attacking this. Rook c6, attacking this. No good way to defend it. White actually has 2 on it. Knight a4, knight takes d6. Very useful to play a move like this because you are threatening a discovered check, which tends to be more dangerous than the check itself. The threat is greater than the execution. Knight b6, rook c6. Now we got this. We're collecting 20 seconds against 16. Knight a4, take, discover, check. Wow. Also, the rook covers this. So now knight e4. f5 check. d6 check. f5, f6, d6. d6. Mating net. d7. Knight c5. Must be mate somewhere. 10 seconds against 5. And flagfest. Here is YouTube's suggestion. Here is my suggestion. Magnus Carlsen winning in 39 seconds against Belarus GM Sergei Zhigalko. If you enjoyed this video, why not give it a like and subscribe to the channel at the same time. If you press the bell, that means YouTube will let you know when I release a new video. Have a nice week and I'll see you later.